Every single day, millions of Americans pull into gas stations with one simple goal: fill the tank. A few minutes later, they're back on the road, rarely giving a second thought to the business they just supported. To most people, a gas station seems like one of the simplest businesses imaginable. Buy gasoline, sell gasoline, repeat that transaction thousands of times. Simple, or at least, that's how it appears. But that assumption hides a problem. Because if gas stations truly made their money selling gasoline, the numbers simply don't work. Industry figures show that after paying for fuel, transportation, operating expenses, and other costs, a station owner may keep only a small amount of profit from each gallon sold. Fuel generates enormous revenue, but only a small share of that revenue ever becomes net profit. Think about that for a second. Thousands of gallons sold, hundreds of customers every day, millions of dollars flowing through the pumps every single year. And yet, the very product every customer comes to buy generates remarkably little profit. That raises an obvious question. If gasoline barely makes money, why would anyone want to own a gas station? Even more puzzling, why are some gas stations worth millions of dollars? At first, it almost sounds impossible. Imagine opening a business where your primary product earns almost nothing. Most entrepreneurs would walk away before ever investing a dollar. Yet across the United States, gas stations are bought, sold, financed, and invested in every single year, sometimes for prices reaching into the millions. Investors actively compete to own them. Banks are willing to lend against them. Entire companies have built their business around acquiring them. So, what are they seeing that most people aren't? Is everyone making a mistake? Or have we misunderstood what a gas station actually is? At first glance, the answer feels obvious. Gas stations sell gasoline, but appearances can be deceptive. Sometimes the most important part of a business isn't the product sitting right in front of you. It's the system operating quietly behind it. And if that's true, then perhaps gasoline isn't really the business at all. Perhaps it's only the beginning of the story. Because before we can understand how these businesses become so valuable, we have to follow the money. Every dollar spent at the pump begins a journey. And where that dollar actually ends up is very different from where most people imagine. When you stop to buy gasoline, the number displayed on the pump feels straightforward. One price, one purchase, one transaction. But behind that single number is an enormous economic chain. Long before gasoline ever reaches your car, crude oil has already been extracted, transported, refined, and distributed through a vast network. Every step along that journey takes its share. Crude oil represents a large portion of the final retail price. Refining adds another layer of cost. Transportation and distribution add more. Taxes account for another significant portion. Only after every one of those participants has been paid does the retailer receive what's left to work with. Suddenly, the economics look completely different. The station owner isn't selling a product they created. They're selling a commodity whose price has already been shaped by global oil markets, refining costs, distribution networks, contracts, and taxes long before it reaches their pumps. That leaves surprisingly little room to compete. Industry data shows that the gross markup between the wholesale rack price and the pump price averages only a few dozen cents per gallon. But even that number can be misleading, because that markup isn't profit, not even close. From those few cents come delivery costs, credit card processing fees, store operating expenses, equipment costs, and countless other expenses required just to keep the business running. By the time all of those costs have been deducted, the remaining profit shrinks dramatically, and suddenly, everything changes. The product attracting every customer is also the product producing the smallest financial reward, which leads to an even bigger question. If gasoline isn't producing meaningful profit, why compete so aggressively to sell it? Drive down almost any major road in America and you'll often find multiple gas stations within sight of one another. Sometimes they're directly across the street. Sometimes they're selling nearly identical fuel. Sometimes one station lowers its price by just a few cents, and almost immediately, traffic begins to shift. Why would businesses fight so intensely over a product that barely makes money? At first, it seems irrational, unless selling gasoline was never the real objective. What if those pumps are accomplishing something far more valuable than generating fuel profits? What if every gallon sold is buying something else? Not revenue, not margin, something far more valuable. A customer. Because every time someone stops for fuel, something else becomes possible. And that possibility begins the very moment the driver opens the car door. What happens next may seem insignificant. In reality, it's the moment the economics of the entire business begin to change. Every customer who steps out of their car faces a simple decision: get back on the road or walk through one particular door. The door leading into the convenience store. At first, it doesn't seem like much. Maybe they grab a bottle of water, a cup of coffee, a snack for the drive, something quick before heading home, just another routine purchase. But from the owner's perspective, that short walk completely transforms the economics of the business. Every gas station is built around one simple assumption: if someone needs fuel, they have to stop. That stop may last only a few minutes, but economically, those few minutes are incredibly valuable. Because the moment a customer finishes pumping gas, they're faced with a choice. They can climb back into the car or walk through the convenience store's front door. It seems almost too ordinary to matter. A place to grab a coffee, pick up a cold drink, maybe a sandwich, some chips, or a candy bar for the road. But for the owner, that short walk changes everything. Industry data shows that more than half of customers who purchase fuel also enter the convenience store. In other words, a fuel sale frequently becomes a retail transaction. That's an extraordinary conversion rate. Imagine owning a retail business where you spend almost nothing on advertising, yet more than half of your customers willingly walk through your front door every single day. Most retailers would consider that remarkable. Gas stations achieve it over and over again, and the moment those customers step inside, the economics change completely. Look around the next time you walk into a convenience store. Fresh coffee waiting near the entrance. Hot food kept under warming lights. Refrigerators filled with cold drinks. Prepared sandwiches, candy, chips, energy drinks. None of those products are sitting there by accident. Every shelf, every cooler, every display has been chosen for a reason. Because unlike gasoline, many of these products carry significantly stronger profit margins. Prepared food and beverages, in particular, contribute a disproportionately large share of in-store profit compared with their share of total sales. Suddenly, the business model begins to reveal itself. The station isn't simply trying to sell you fuel, it's trying to turn a necessary stop into a profitable shopping trip. And now the relationship between the pumps and the store starts making perfect sense. Without the pumps, many customers would never arrive in the first place. Without the store, many stations would struggle to generate the profitability needed to support the business. The two aren't competing with each other, they're working together. Fuel attracts. Retail monetizes. Even the products that seem ordinary play carefully designed roles. Some generate healthy margins. Others encourage customers to come back again and again. Some are positioned specifically to trigger impulse purchases while customers wait in line. The goal isn't to maximize the profit from every individual product. The goal is to maximize the value of every single customer visit. That's a subtle difference, but it's a profound one. Most businesses focus on selling products. This business focuses on monetizing traffic. And once you realize that, everything we've seen so far starts to look different. Maybe gasoline isn't the product being optimized. Maybe the customer is. And if that's true, then the most valuable thing a gas station owns isn't the fuel stored beneath the ground. It's the steady stream of people arriving every single day. Which naturally leads to another question. If customers are the real asset, what determines how many customers show up in the first place? Imagine two gas stations. Both sell nearly identical fuel. Both have modern pumps. Both charge almost the same price. Yet one is constantly packed with customers, while the other sits surprisingly quiet. Why? The answer isn't hidden inside the fuel. It's outside the station. Location, traffic, visibility, routine. Those are the forces that determine how many opportunities a business receives before a single dollar is ever spent. Unlike many retailers that have to convince customers to make a special trip, gas stations benefit from something far more predictable. People need fuel over and over again. That routine creates recurring visits. Industry data shows that convenience stores connected to fuel stations handle enormous numbers of daily transactions, and fuel customers frequently become store customers as well. Seen through that lens, a gallon of gasoline does something much more valuable than earning a few cents of profit. It brings another potential customer onto the property. Every vehicle pulling into the lot represents another opportunity to sell a cup of coffee, another opportunity to sell lunch, another opportunity to sell a cold drink, another opportunity to sell snacks. The fuel transaction creates the opportunity. The business decides how to capitalize on it. Up to this point, we've been looking at a gas station through the eyes of a customer. The fuel, the convenience store, the quick purchases that happen during a routine stop. But investors see something very different. They ask a question most customers never think to ask. Why does one gas station sell for $1 million while another commands $5 million? The answer isn't sitting inside the cooler, it isn't behind the cash register, and it isn't buried inside the fuel tanks. It's sitting underneath the entire business. The land. Think about where the most successful gas stations are usually built. Busy intersections, highway exits, major commuter routes, places where thousands of vehicles pass every single day. Those locations weren't chosen by chance. Every passing car represents another potential customer, another opportunity, another transaction waiting to happen. And unlike the gasoline stored underground, that location can't simply be moved somewhere else. Prime commercial land is limited. Once a high-traffic corner has been developed, it becomes a long-term economic asset that few competitors can easily replicate. That changes the entire way investors evaluate the business. A customer sees fuel pumps. An investor sees strategically positioned commercial real estate producing recurring cash flow. Industry guidance notes that gas stations are commonly valued as both an operating business and a real estate asset. Buyers often separate the value of the business itself from the value of the land and buildings when structuring an acquisition. And that distinction matters. Because the value isn't created by the land alone, it isn't created by the convenience store alone, and it certainly isn't created by gasoline alone. It's created by the way all three work together. A valuable location attracts steady traffic. That traffic supports retail sales. Retail sales generate cash flow. Cash flow increases the value of the operating business. And beneath it all, the underlying real estate provides another layer of long-term value. Each layer reinforces the next, creating a system that's far more valuable than any single piece on its own. Long-term lease structures can strengthen that system even further. Many stations operate under lengthy agreements that create predictable income over many years, making certain properties especially attractive to investors seeking stable returns. And now, the mystery that started this journey begins to make sense. The market isn't paying millions because gasoline produces extraordinary profits. It's paying for an asset capable of generating recurring business year after year. Fuel may bring customers today, but location helps ensure they'll keep arriving tomorrow. And that's an entirely different kind of value. Yet even this doesn't explain everything, because not every gas station operates the same way. Some carry nationally recognized fuel brands. Others remain completely independent. Some build their identity around fresh food and beverages. Others focus almost entirely on speed and convenience. If the goal were simply to sell gasoline, why would these businesses look so different? The answer reveals one final layer hiding beneath the surface. For more than a century, the gas station business has depended on one simple certainty: drivers need gasoline. As long as that need exists, customers keep arriving. And as long as customers keep arriving, the entire business model continues to work. But no economic system remains unchanged forever. Electric vehicles are becoming more common. Transportation habits continue to evolve. New regulations and changing consumer behavior introduce uncertainty about future fuel demand. At first glance, that sounds like a direct threat to gas stations. Fewer gallons sold, fewer customers arriving, fewer opportunities to generate profitable retail sales. But the deeper lesson we've uncovered tells a more nuanced story. If gasoline was never the true business, then gasoline isn't necessarily the only way to attract customers. The real competitive advantage has always been something much broader: location, recurring visits, convenience, the ability to turn routine travel into profitable transactions. Those advantages don't simply disappear because the technology inside our vehicles changes. They evolve. Stations can expand their food service, introduce additional services, adapt their properties to match changing transportation patterns. The details may change, but the underlying economic question remains exactly the same. How do you bring people onto valuable real estate and create enough value during each visit to sustain the business? That's the question gas station owners have been answering for decades. And it's the same question they'll continue answering as the industry evolves. Which brings us back to where we began. Most people believe a gas station sells gasoline. And at the surface, that's absolutely true. But underneath that familiar business is something far more sophisticated. A business built not on extraordinary fuel margins, but on extraordinary consistency. Millions of ordinary stops, repeated every single day, each one creating another opportunity, another purchase, another stream of cash flow, another reason why an ordinary-looking roadside business can become an extraordinarily valuable enterprise. In the end, the biggest lesson isn't really about gasoline. It's about economics. The most valuable businesses aren't always the ones earning the highest margin on their primary product. More often, they're the ones that use an everyday necessity to create an entire system of recurring value. And that's exactly what a successful gas station has been doing all along.